There is some major drama in the Democratic Senate primary in Texas. Right now, Texas State Rep James Talrico is leading Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett in the race to be the Democratic nominee for Senate. Both are trying to do what no Democrat has done in a generation, win a statewide race in Texas, which has not happened since 1994. But this primary just got more complicated because the Texas Supreme Court has blocked an earlier ruling that allowed extended voting hours in Dallas County. The court said any votes that came in after the original closing time should not be counted tonight while the case is litigated. They should be separated. Moments ago, Crockett spoke, saying she thinks it's unlikely that a winner will even be known tonight.
Now, shifting gears a bit, something big is happening nationally. Democrats have just filed actual articles of impeachment against Trump. Yes, real impeachment articles. This isn't just talk anymore. It's official and presented to Congress. Trump has completely lost it over this. He took to his platform, Truth Social, and went into full meltdown mode, calling it a witch hunt and insisting that it's all fake. He claims Democrats hate America and want to ruin any chance of victory. It seems he's doing just about everything except defending himself based on what he actually did. The truly wild part. This reaction was exactly what many people anticipated. Back in February, Democrats openly stated that if Trump engaged in military action without congressional approval, they would move to impeach him. Well, guess what? He did just that. And now here we are. Impeachment is happening. It's a classic cause and effect situation.
On the Republican side, incumbent Senator John Cornyn will be headed to a bruising runoff against Attorney General Ken Paxton after neither candidate cleared 50% plus one of the vote. Our reporters and analysts are here to cover it all tonight. And I want to start with CNN's John King, who was at the Magic Wall. John, tell me, how important is the vote count out of Dallas County for that Talrico-Crockett race?
Well, obviously, it is her home base, and every vote counts. And on this first primary night of 2026, we certainly want to start by making sure every vote is counted. But let's look at it. The question is, though, Laura, we'll see what happens in the courts, and we'll see which ballots they count. Hopefully, they count them all if people were in line and thought they could vote. The question is it enough? Is it enough? Because you look right now at the race, the state representative, as you mentioned, James Talrico, leading there 52 to 47. So he's got a 5-point lead, or 70, just shy of 75,000 votes at the moment.
Turning to recent events, the world is looking pretty grim. We've got American soldiers losing their lives due to missile attacks from Hezbollah. The global community is turning its back on America. Oil prices are soaring, and Republicans are feeling anxious about the midterms. Meanwhile, Vice President Vance seems to be stepping back from the fray. And if that weren't enough, the Democrats have decided to file articles of impeachment. They actually have a valid constitutional argument this time around. Apparently, Trump didn't bother to follow the proper channels through Congress before ordering those strikes on Iran. He acted unilaterally and didn't give anyone a heads up, which goes against how things are meant to work according to the Constitution. This whole impeachment initiative is rooted in a serious concern. The president doesn't possess the right to start wars on his own. That power is supposed to lie with Congress, which is responsible for declaring war and allocating military funds. That's the essence of the separation of powers and checks and balances. Representative Al Green, who's been vocal about impeachment for quite a while now, has introduced these articles citing what they're calling an abuse of war powers. It's not just some political maneuver. We're looking at a legitimate constitutional basis here. The articles hinge on the idea that Congress, not the president, controls war powers. And that's really the crux of the matter. So here's the deal. Trump really crossed the line here. He pretty much declared, I'm president and I'm starting a war. No need for Congress to approve or even ask for permission. That's just not how things are supposed to go. According to the Constitution, Congress is the one that declares war, and they also have to approve any military action. Sure, the president can react to attacks, but he can't just go off and start wars on a whim. Well, that's exactly what he did. Trump initiated military action against Iran without going through Congress or following any of the usual procedures. Now, the Democrats are stepping in and filing articles asserting that what he did is unconstitutional and illegal, claiming it's an abuse of presidential power. Honestly, even though I'm not someone who's blindly on the Democratic side, I have to say they've got a point this time. This really raises a serious constitutional issue. There's this law called the War Powers Resolution dating back to 1973, which clearly states that the president can only send armed forces into military action under specific conditions. This includes a declaration of war, congressional authorization, or an immediate attack on the United States that calls for defensive action. Trump had none of these bases covered. No declaration of war, no congressional approval, and Iran didn't attack us first. We were actually the ones striking them. So yeah, Trump really flouted the law and the Constitution, and now he's facing the consequences for that. His response is just comical, almost embarrassing. He jumps on Truth Social to rant about crooked Democrats filing fake impeachment articles right after our brave troops died fighting terrorists, claiming they hate victory and hate America. But let's get real. Those troops lost their lives because of his decisions, thanks to his orders to strike Iran. They weren't fighting terrorists. They died because he provoked Iran, and they fought back. That's just basic cause and effect. And saying it's a witch hunt doesn't actually respond to the constitutional concerns about whether he had the right to take military action. It doesn't really address the legal arguments. It's just a shot at the Democrats. It's pure vitriol, labeling them as the bad guys. But that doesn't defend what he did or explain why he thought he had the constitutional authority to initiate a war. It's honestly hard to believe Trump just went ahead and ordered military strikes without getting the green light from Congress. That's a big deal. You see, there are some serious constitutional experts out there, including law professors and folks who spend their days digging into these issues, and they believe Trump messed up by violating the War Powers Resolution. This isn't just some partisan squabble. It's a genuine legal matter worth looking into. What's different about this situation compared to past impeachment attempts is that these articles are grounded in something concrete. They're rooted in an actual constitutional violation, pointing to a specific law that Trump allegedly broke. The War Powers Resolution is straightforward. It says the president can send the military into action only if there's a declaration of war, Congress has approved it, or there's been an attack on the United States. In this case, Trump didn't have any of that. No declaration of war, no authorization from Congress, and Iran didn't provoke us. We attacked them first. Now, let's break down what these impeachment articles are actually saying, because it's more than just labeling this as Trump starting a war without Congress. There's some serious constitutional talk going on. The articles introduce what they call Article 3, which points a finger at Trump for international aggression linked to the strikes on Iran without congressional approval. That may sound all legal and formal, but essentially it means Trump ordered military action on another country without checking in with Congress. And that's a constitutional no-no. These strikes resulted in the death of Iran's supreme leader, top military officials, and led to the destruction of military bases and nuclear facilities, all carried out without any congressional nod. He didn't bother to ask or even consult with Congress before making those moves. Now, Democrats are saying that this is an abuse of presidential power. It's interesting how these articles build on past impeachment efforts, since they've been trying to hold Trump accountable since he stepped into office. Earlier this year, the office was buzzing with chatter about the impeachment efforts against Trump. There were a total of numerous different counts, several of which were leveled at him, touching on a variety of accusations like obstruction, corruption, and misuse of office. And now, Democrats are ramping it up even more with a third article focusing on war powers and international aggression. It feels like there's a growing stack of issues they want to hold him accountable for. This new charge connected to the Iran war is particularly interesting. It's grounded right in the Constitution, specifically Article 1, which clearly gives Congress the responsibility to declare war and approve military actions. This isn't just one of those vague accusations. This one is sharp and direct. The articles are essentially claiming that Trump broke the Constitution by initiating a war without getting congressional approval. Here's why this matters. The Constitution spells out the division of war powers, placing them between the president and Congress. Congress is the one who declares war, controls military budgets, and needs to greenlight any military action, while the president acts as the commander-in-chief of the military and can direct operations that Congress has authorized. He can't just start wars on his own. That role belongs to Congress, which is all part of the checks and balances system designed to keep things in line. Apparently, Trump took it upon himself to say, I'm the president. I can start a war without checking in with Congress. That's the crux of the issue right there. And while it's not a brand new phenomenon, past presidents, both Democrats and Republicans, have pushed the limits and ordered military strikes without Congress's nod. Usually, there's some attempt to rationalize it. They often claim they were responding to an attack or that their actions were necessary to address an imminent threat. Trump tried to pull that card too, saying there was a threat from Iran that required action. But the tricky part is that these strikes weren't just limited responses. They were aggressive, preemptive actions that ultimately resulted in significant casualties, including the killing of a high-ranking official. It's quite the mess, and now it's all part of this unfolding drama. So here's the deal. When it comes to military actions, we're not talking about just a little operation here. We're starting a full-blown war. That's a big deal, and it definitely needs the stamp of approval from Congress. The Democrats are arguing that Trump went against the Constitution and the War Powers Resolution by basically acting like a dictator who can do whatever he pleases without even asking Congress. Now, Trump's response? He just brushes it off as a witch hunt. He's not tackling the constitutional concerns at all. He doesn't provide solid reasons to justify his actions. Instead, he just lashes out at the Democrats, claiming they hate America and winning. But here's the kicker. None of that really addresses whether he broke the rules. It's like he sidesteps the tough questions entirely, and that looks suspicious. Honestly, when someone doesn't defend themselves against accusations, it leads people to think they're hiding something. Now, let's talk about the timing. The Democrats filed those impeachment articles shortly after the first American casualties. That's when Hezbollah took out 3 U.S. soldiers. They used this tragic turn of events to argue that it was a reckless decision made without proper oversight. They pointed out that the Constitution's there for a reason. It's meant to keep presidential powers in check by requiring Congress to approve military actions. Otherwise, one person's decision can lead to real consequences, like Americans losing their lives. They have a solid point. Had Trump consulted with Congress, things could have been different. They would have debated the issue, asked crucial questions, and insisted on intelligence briefings. They would want to know if he was absolutely sure about the decision, what the risks were, and what the plan was if Iran retaliated. Seriously, Congress would have drilled down into the details like that. You know, it's honestly hard to believe that Trump made this decision all by himself without going through Congress. Sure, maybe Congress would have eventually said, go ahead, start this war. But at least there would have been some discussion, some oversight, and Congress would have been involved in that choice. Instead, we find ourselves in a situation where Americans have lost their lives, and the world seems to have turned against us. Now, here come the Democrats filing impeachment articles, and their argument is pretty clear. Skipping Congress resulted in these tragic consequences. It's tough to argue against that kind of logic. And here's the kicker. It's all happening just before the midterm elections. This is a crucial time for Republicans who really need to stand united while gearing up for the elections. But Trump? He's not rallying his base or getting people excited and ready to vote. Instead, he's stuck defending himself against impeachment charges. He's having meltdowns on social media and directing his energy into attacking Democrats instead of focusing on campaigning. Meanwhile, GOP leaders are feeling the heat. They're scrambling to find a way to put a stop to this impeachment process before it reaches a full House vote. They're trying to kill it in committee, hoping it'll disappear if they ignore it long enough. But that's not how impeachment works. Once those articles are filed, they're official and part of the record. Votes will have to happen, and that's going to force Republicans to take a stance. If this makes it to a full House vote, it's going to be chaotic, splitting the party down the middle. Some Republicans might even support impeachment because they care about the Constitution, while others from the MAGA faction will likely oppose it. This division will be on the record and will definitely follow those Republicans into the midterms. So let's get real about what this means. There are 3 major consequences that are already starting to show up and will only escalate as time goes on. First up, this impeachment push is going to dominate Trump's entire term. Seriously, this is going to be the main topic of conversation. Every day from now on, it seems like Trump's world is going to revolve around defending himself. All the interviews will focus on impeachment, and each statement he makes will be about justifying his actions. Press conferences will be filled with questions about whether he's actually violated the Constitution. This constant back and forth means he can't concentrate on his goals. He won't be able to pay attention to the economy, inflation, or anything else because he'll be stuck in impeachment mode. His advisors will be caught up in crafting legal strategies. His staff will be all over the place, and his energy will be spread too thin. That's a tough spot for any presidency and makes it really hard to get things accomplished. Now, it's probably true that impeachment won't actually go through. Democrats don't have the votes they need anymore, especially if the Republicans stick together. But even the process itself is causing some harm. The debates happening around it, they're harmful too. Just the fact that impeachment articles have been filed sends shockwaves, since every time the Democrats discuss Trump's actions, they're also diving into constitutional matters, war powers, and the legalities around military action. And the more they draw attention to those topics, the more it gets people thinking that maybe Trump really did step over the line. That can erode support and get folks nervous, making them question if a president can just jump into wars without Congress. Spoiler alert, he can't. And the Democrats are driving that point home. Their messaging is strong. And when you add in the fact that Americans are already losing lives in this ongoing war, it only amplifies their argument. On another note, this whole situation might drive a wedge into Trump's own base. Not all of them, but definitely some. There are folks in the MAGA movement who are against war. They supported Trump because he promised to end those endless wars. They believed in putting America first and wanted the country to focus on its own issues. Now here's Trump kicking off a new conflict without Congress. So you can see this split is growing within the MAGA base, with some feeling betrayed. They're voicing their discontent, saying this is the same old cycle of endless war that they definitely voted against. The impeachment push is making that divide more apparent and giving more voice to anti-war sentiments, which only adds to the legitimacy of their concerns. So here's the scoop. The Democrats are really hammering in on the idea that this whole war shouldn't have happened without Congress being involved, and that definitely strikes a chord with people who are against it. Meanwhile, Vice President Vance is stepping back from the chaos. He seemed to have some reservations about the strikes before they even happened, wanting separate briefings and asking the right questions about potential risks. Now looking back at the situation with Americans losing their lives, it turns out Vance's caution was wise. He can now confidently say, I had concerns and I was right to be worried about this. That puts him in a solid spot politically as he comes across as the careful and thoughtful one. On the flip side, this is not great for Trump. It shows that even his own vice president wasn't fully on board, revealing a rift in the administration regarding the war's legitimacy. That's a tough pill to swallow, especially with the midterm elections looming. When going into an election, it's crucial to have your team united and your base solidly behind you. But with all this uncertainty stirring up doubt, it doesn't bode well for him. Now, on to the really big deal. The political fallout is looking rough for the Republicans as they approach the next election cycle. The focus is shifting to whether Trump crossed constitutional lines or abused his power, along with whether Americans are on board with what seems like endless wars. The polling is clear. A solid majority of Americans don't support the Iran war. That's a majority saying this doesn't really make sense. Add in the casualty figures, economic repercussions, and international isolation, and Republicans are facing a mountain to climb. Democrats are eager to capitalize on this mess, framing Trump as someone who started a war without the green light from Congress and as a real threat to democracy and the rule of law. In many districts, that message could resonate, potentially leading to some surprising shifts in the House of Representatives. You might even see close races flipping to Democrats because of Trump's handling of this war, especially among women voters who could turn against him. Right now, Trump is in a tough spot with impeachment articles filed against him. His base is divided over whether the ongoing war was justified. Meanwhile, Americans are facing rising oil prices that are pushing inflation up. And sadly, lives are being lost in a conflict many didn't agree to. It's honestly hard to believe he said that out loud. You can definitely see moderate voters turning away from Trump since they care about the Constitution. This could spell trouble for the Republican Party in the midterms. They might lose control of the House, allowing the Democrats to regain power. If that happens, just wait. The investigations will ramp up, subpoenas are coming, and things are likely to get messy. Democrats will want to dig deep into how decisions were made, whether Congress received proper briefings and whether the intelligence used was reliable. They'll be eager to find out everything they can, and you can bet that this investigation will be at the forefront of the news. This whole scenario could end up defining Trump's presidency, with House Democrats pushing for impeachment. The GOP leaders will attempt to put a stop to it, sparking heated debates and votes that are bound to create chaos. No doubt the narrative will be clear. Trump launched a war without congressional approval, violated the Constitution, and abused his power, while the Democrats hold him accountable. But will this lead to Trump being removed from office? I doubt it. The Democrats simply lack the votes in the Senate. The Republicans control that, and they're unlikely to convict their own president. But here's the kicker. The impeachment process itself is already damaging. Just the act of debating whether Trump violated the Constitution causes people to really think about it. Each mention brings it to the forefront of American minds. And as people mull over the idea that he may have stepped out of line, it sways opinion. This sentiment can shape how folks vote in the upcoming elections, potentially favoring Democrats over Republicans. So here we are. Trump is facing serious implications as questions swirl about his actions, and it's only going to get more complicated from here. It's honestly hard to believe how things have turned out. America's really in a tough spot right now, and with the midterms coming up, that's not the position you want to be in. I can't help but think that Trump could have sidestepped all of this mess if he had just taken a different approach. He had options. He could have gone to Congress, asked for approval, sparked a debate, and maybe even gotten authorization. There was a chance Congress would have said yes. Who knows? At least he would have been sticking to the Constitution and following the law. But instead, he seemed to think he had all the answers. He bypassed Congress, decided he could start a war on his own, and now he's facing the fallout from those choices. We're looking at impeachment articles, a divided base, the unfortunate losses, economic fallout, and a world where America feels isolated, plus an angry electorate wanting nothing to do with a war they didn't support. This is the situation Trump has put himself in, and it's one he's going to have to navigate. This whole saga is likely to shape his entire second term. People will remember this more than any accomplishments or policy successes. The reality is, he started a war on his own and ended up getting impeached for it. That's going to be his legacy, and that's just the way it is.